Good afternoon, everyone. Fundamentally, politics is about the management of public money. How do the people who are entrusted with serving in the House, in the Senate, and within an administration prioritize the expenditure of taxpayer dollars? And our view as Democrats is that taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for the American people. In an environment where the cost of living is way too high, which is why Democrats are going to continue to focus on driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken healthcare system, and making sure that people in this country who work hard and play by the rules aren't simply surviving, but they can thrive. Because far too many people in this country are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. One of the challenges that we have in this country is that Republicans have decided to manage the public's money recklessly. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make your life more affordable. Instead, Republicans have decided to actually use it to enact massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. That's what the one big ugly bill was all about. Republicans have decided to use taxpayer dollars to create a $75 billion slush fund to unleash mass and poorly trained, out-of-control ICE agents on American communities, brutalizing and in some cases killing American citizens and violently targeting law-abiding immigrant families. That's how Republicans have chosen to use the taxpayer dollars of the American people to manage public money. And now, of course, we've seen Republicans, led by Donald Trump, plunging America into another endless conflict in the Middle East, spending billions of dollars to bomb Iran. But they can't find a dime to make it more affordable for the American people to go see a doctor when they need one. Can't find a dime to make it easier for Americans who are working hard to purchase their first home. And they can't find a dime to lower the grocery bills of the American people. And instead, of course, the reckless Trump tariffs have increased costs on everyday Americans by thousands of dollars per year. Democrats are committed. This is the fundamental fight at this moment to making sure that we jealously guard the resources of the American people and we use it to make life better for everyday Americans, not actually make things worse, which is what Donald Trump and the Republicans have done. Questions?
Upgrade, in your opinion?
Well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it, and we'll see what he has to say when and if there.
What was your impression serving with him in the House?
I don't have any comment right now on what's to come. Let's focus on what's taking place right now. Kristi Noem is gone. Good riddance. She was a disaster, and House Democrats made something very clear several weeks ago. We said either Kristi Noem is fired or she's going to be impeached.
Does that change the ICE conversation?
And Kristi Noem has been fired, consistent with what we have demanded on behalf of the American people. But let me also make clear, a change in personnel is not sufficient. We need a change in policy. And that has to be bold, dramatic, transformational, and meaningful. And we've laid out 10 different demands standing on the side of the American people, including but not limited to judicial warrants, a ban on racial profiling, a prohibition on ICE targeting sensitive locations like schools, hospitals, polling sites, and houses of worship, a requirement that ICE agents are actually vetted through criminal background checks and actually trained, the implementation of a prohibition on the excessive use of force, which we've seen horrifically been unleashed on the American people, and of course, a requirement that ICE agents who break the law can be criminally investigated by state and local authorities. These are the type of policy changes that are going to be necessary to move us forward to ensure that ICE actually conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country. That's our fundamental demand. Every other law enforcement agency in the country. So, of course, this change in personnel is welcome. Kristi, Noem is a disgrace. And we made clear what was going to happen. One way or the other. It happened the easy way or the hard way. He's chosen the easy way. But now we still have work that needs to be done in terms of the policy changes.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Congressman Tony Gonzalez said yesterday on a podcast that he did have an affair with a late staffer who later died by suicide. At this point, would you support expulsion for Congressman Gonzalez now that he's admitted that? He's
violated the laws. If an expulsion resolution were presented before the House of Representatives, I would, of course, support it.
Would House Democrats investigate Kristi Noem as an ex-cabinet secretary?
We haven't had that conversation yet. But what we do know, as was gloriously exposed by Congressman Joe Neguse, she's a living, breathing article of impeachment in terms of the abuse of power and the corruption that Kristi Noem has engaged in. And we need to make sure that every single taxpayer dollar is accounted for, that she was allowed to brazenly abuse, if not personally benefit from. And so there will be continuing efforts led by Benny Thompson and Robert Garcia and Jamie Raskin and members of those committees to make sure that we are looking out for the appropriate expenditure of taxpayer dollars. And wherever that leads, it leads.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. After votes today, you all will go on a week-long recess. Can you provide any visibility to the American people about where the negotiation stands? Republicans and the White House continue to say that they've moved on some of the demands that you have made. However, right now it just seems to be a debate between, you say that they haven't moved enough, they say we're moving in their direction. What can you say to the American people over the next week or so, what they can expect while you all are out?
Well, it's unfortunate that the Trump administration and Republicans have decided that they would rather shut down FEMA, shut down the Coast Guard, and shut down TSA than dramatically reform ICE and get ICE under control, which is what the American people want to see happen. And this is a step in the direction of acknowledging that things at the Department of Homeland Security were broken. They had a corrupt political hack who was running DHS. Shame on every Republican senator who put her in that position when they knew she was unqualified. Now, in terms of the negotiation, we remain ready, willing, and able to talk with anyone, anytime, any place in a position of significance within the administration if they are prepared to make sure that ICE conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country and stops brutalizing and killing American citizens and law-abiding immigrant families.
Really quickly, the last time, a few weeks ago, the administration took action, on TSA, global entry, and what some say was an attempt to put pressure on Democrats to move in their direction. Do you expect, if the shutdown continues to go on, that the administration will again try different ways to exert leverage and bring you all to the table to end the shutdown?
Trump administration is deeply unpopular. They failed again and again and again, and they're on the run, governmentally and electorally. And our view is simple. Abandon your my way or the highway approach. You're not intimidating anybody. They tried to break America within the first 100 days. And they failed to do it because the American people have held firm. And as Democrats in the Congress, we got to continue to forcefully push back. We'll do that in the courts, and we certainly will do that in communities all across the nation. And we're winning the hearts and minds of the American people. We just saw that again in Texas. and in Arkansas. And we'll continue to see that all the way through November. Any normal administration would dramatically change course. But these extremists, continue to try to hang on to whatever mandate they claim that they had in the aftermath of the general election, even though the American people view them as a complete and total failure. But as long as they approach things with a my way or the highway mentality, then we're not going to be able to make any meaningful progress in a bipartisan manner on behalf of the American people. Thanks.
Mark Mullen is one of Trump's most loyal allies in the Senate. Do you think, how can you work with someone like him as you're still doing negotiations on DHS funding? Further, what do you want to see from the next DHS secretary to be able to work?
But what we have to do right now is deal with what's in front of us, which is DHS has been shut down by Republicans because of their refusal to actually agree to a set of bold and meaningful but common sense demands that are designed to get ICE under control. The Senate is going to handle their process, and we'll see what happens in terms of the confirmation hearings, in terms of the individual meetings that Senator Mark Mullen has with the senators who are going to be making a decision as to whether they should confirm him or not. And then we'll have more to say once that unfolds. But at the moment, it's not like Kristi Noem was the one who was involved in negotiating anything. She was a corrupt lackey. So we were dealing with the White House before, and we're going to continue to deal with the White House at this point in terms of whether there's going to be movement or not. I will tell you that Pam Bondi, she's got to go, and Stephen Miller has got to go. And we're going to approach those two toxic individuals with the same intensity that has now led to the termination of Kristi Noem.
You're saying with Mullen though that he has to get confirmed. Can't he just work on an acting capacity, and that would mean that you have to work with him in the meantime?
No.
Thank you. Obviously, there are two votes this afternoon on the War Powers Resolution. Some of your members are seemingly wavering. How do you expect it to go? And if it does not move forward, will you then support the alderman that was also brought up?
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, we're focused on securing strong Democratic support for this War Powers Resolution. We believe that Donald Trump needed to get authorization for engaging in a war. He admits it's a war. The so-called Secretary of Defense, the most unqualified person to ever hold that position as well, he acknowledges that it's a war. And the Constitution is not ambiguous on this subject. And there's a reason. The framers were very clear. They wanted to make sure that the People's House, that the most direct representatives of the American people were the ones who could weigh in on issues of war and peace, so that we could press an administration as to whether they have a plan. What's the justification for sending American men and women into a theater of war, risking their lives? As we've seen, we've already tragically lost 6 heroic servicemen and women. And we mourn for them, and we pray for their families. And we don't want to see any more American lives lost in Trump's war of choice. And so we're going to continue to engage with members over the next few hours in advance of the vote. There is going to be strong Democratic support and bipartisan support. And we're hoping that just a handful of additional Republicans beyond the 2 who have publicly said they're with us will do the right thing on behalf of the people that they are privileged to represent, so we can enact this War Powers Resolution. George Washington said in his farewell speech to the nation, and I've never forgotten this upon reading it, it wasn't there at the time, that the Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. That was his farewell message, final public speech to this new nation. The Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. That means everybody. There's no Trump exclusion. There's no wannabe king exclusion. There's no autocratic exclusion in the Constitution. It's sacredly obligatory upon all. And we just need our Republican colleagues to get some guts at this moment, as Rand Paul said yesterday, get some guts and start acting like you're part of a separate and co-equal branch of government.
On the subject of Iran, the administration and Republicans have said there may be a need for a supplemental funding request. What is House Democratic leadership position on a potential supplemental request?
Yeah, we haven't had any conversation about the possibility of a supplemental funding request because at the moment, the administration can't even provide a justification for why we're in this massive conflict and war in the Middle East right now. They have not bothered to make that case to the American people. And their explanations are all over the place in terms of what prompted Donald Trump's decision. In fact, most recently, the White House has said Donald Trump had a feeling. Can you believe that? A feeling. You send American men and women into war with a high likelihood of them dying based on Donald Trump's feeling? That's insanity to me. There's no evidence that there was an imminent threat to the United States of America. No evidence that they had reconstituted their nuclear program. No evidence that they have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach our shores. And so, before we even get to the consideration of a supplemental request, let's have the debate about how taxpayer dollars are being wasted right now. Billions spent to bomb the Middle East, triggering an all-out war that now involves more than a dozen countries, as opposed to actually Republicans bothering to find a dime to lower grocery prices or make life better for the American people. Thank you, everyone.